Now we're going to implement the ability to actually like a status. So to start with, on our user model, we are going to implement a new method which is hasLikedStatus, because we're going to need this later. Obviously one user can't like a status more than once, so we need to determine if they've already liked it. So let's implement this now. And the method name is going to be hasLikedStatus. And into this, we're going to be able to pass a status, which we can use to compare. So if we haven't already, which we haven't up here, we'll need to go ahead and use chatty models status. And down here, we can return status, which is the status we passed in, likes, and then we can add a few where clauses just in here. And I'm going to pull this down just to make things a little bit easier. In fact, we can keep that one up there. So the first condition is where the likable ID equals the status ID. The second is where the likable type equals the class name of the status that we pass in. So we can either hard code this in, or we can use the getClass function and pass in status in case the name of that changes. That will be the full namespace to that. And then we're going to say where the user ID equals this ID. And we're going to grab the count from that. And of course, we're going to cast this to a Boolean. So there we go. We've got our hasLikedStatus method, which we can use later on. The next thing I want to do is, obviously, if I'm on my timeline here, I've written this so we can't like our own statuses. So we want to get rid of that. And we also can't like statuses of people we're not friends with. So for example, if I've searched for Dale's profile here, I want this to disappear. So we're going to update two templates here. If we go to our resources, views, and our timeline here, and click on index, let's go down to where these likes are. So we've got one here for the actual status, and then we've got one here for the status replies. So for this, we're just going to wrap this in an if statement just here. And we'll end the if just there. And this is going to basically check if the status user ID doesn't equal auth user ID. So on here, you can see that for my status down here, and this should be reply status or reply user ID. We'll do the same for the one up here as well. So let's just do that. So if the status user ID doesn't equal the currently authenticated user ID, and there we go. So we can like this status here because it's Billy. We can like this one. We can like this one, but we just can't like one that is our own. So that's absolutely fine. And you can obviously change this around if you want. So the next one to look at is our page here. We need to do the same on here. Again, if you have cut these up into partials, this will be a lot easier. But in this case, we need to manually change these as well. So this one shouldn't be able to be liked, nor should this one from my account. So let's head over to our profile index page, and we'll do the same check here. And why don't we just go and copy that over from here just to save having to write it again. Like that. We'll copy this line, and for each reply, we want the same check in here. We'll indent that, and this is reply user ID. So in here, we see exactly the same thing. We can like Billy's status now. So what we can now do is we can create our controller method, and this is going to be on our status controller. So let's open this up, status controller, and let's implement a new method here to be able to like. So this is going to be called getLike, and in here, we're going to be able to pass status ID. So let's just die dump the status ID for now. And we will update our roots. So let's go over to our roots here. And down here, we'll create a new root. And this is going to be status. Then the status ID. And then like. So it's a GET request because it will be a link. And in here we have our array. We can do the same thing. We need to be authenticated, remember. And this is going to use status controller get like. And this will be status.like. And again, middleware for authentication. So now that we've got this in place, we can use status.like as a root. And we can use that on both our timeline and our profile pages. So let's update these now. If we go down to this here, first of all, this is on our timeline. Let's say root status.like. Then we need to pass our status ID in. And that is status ID. We can copy and paste this. We'll just make sure that's working first of all. So over on our timeline, if I like this, we see 3 because that's the status we're about to like. So we can do that for the replies as well. And this will be reply ID. So we can do the same thing here. We can like Billy's reply. Okay, so we'll do the same thing on our timeline as well. Of course, if you haven't implemented a timeline or if you've set up your templates so they're reusable, you won't have to keep repeating yourself like this. We'll do the same thing for status ID here, and then we'll do the same thing for our like just down here. So that will be reply ID, and we can check this out as well on our profile. So we can like this one, and there we go. In actual fact, for the statuses here, we don't actually need this because this will always be our own status. So I can actually get rid of that. Just a mistake adding that in the first place. So there we go. There is our route to our like. Well, I'm going to focus on the timeline here, and I'm going to go ahead and try and like something. We'll be handling the count of likes in the next part. So we don't have anything in here at the moment, but we know that we're now going through to this status controller, and we're killing the page there. I'm just going to get rid of some of these files that we just don't need at the moment. So once we have a status ID, we can obviously pull through that status. So we're going to say status, and we're going to find that by the status ID. And we'll do the normal checks. So we'll check if it doesn't exist. So if no status, we just want to return and redirect, let's say redirect to the home route, because we should never be in the situation where we're trying to like something that doesn't exist, but you can obviously handle this in your own way. The next thing we need to do is check that the user making the like is friends with the person they're liking the status. Otherwise, we're going to allow anyone to like anyone's status. So if it's not the case that the current authenticated user is friends with, and the status user we pull from this status model, and if that isn't the case, then we can go ahead and return back to the home page because the user is obviously trying to do this when they shouldn't be. And the next check is whether they've already liked the status. If we go over to our user model again and just remind ourselves we have this has liked status, which we just pass a status into. So we can have another one here. So if the currently authenticated user has already liked this status, we pass in that status, then we return and we redirect the user back. So what we can do now is we can create the like in the database table, and this is pretty straightforward. Even though it's a polymorphic relationship, we can do this quite simply by saying like equals status. So we're accessing the likes method on, or relationship on, our status table. So that's this here. And then we are creating one. We don't need to pass anything in, so we can just pass an empty array in there. So Now we want to associate with this or save this to the current user's likes. So we say auth user likes save, and we save that like. That'll associate it with the user. And then we return and we redirect back. So now we can test this out. If I wanted to like this status here, I click like, and okay, so it is friends with. Let's go back and try this again. And undefined method builder likes. So let's check this out. So auth user likes. Okay, so if we go to our user model, we don't actually have a likes relationship in here, so we need to implement that now. So if we go here and say public function likes, because remember a user owns a like because they've obviously liked something, and we return this has many, and then we give the full namespace, so chatty models like, and that key is user ID. So now if we go back and hopefully third time lucky, there we go. So we've liked that. We're not checking here if this has already been liked. We're going to leave the link. I'll let you kind of decide how you want to show that or keep it in there. But now we should see this in here. So this was the first one that failed, so I'm going to get rid of that. And you can see here we've got a user ID of 1, a likable ID of 8, a likable type of chatty model status. We've liked that status. This is the status ID that we've liked, and this is the user who liked it. So we now actually have that like being stored. And this will be the same for everything now. So wherever we are, we can always like another status. And when we refresh, that's just inserted a new record, but a different likable ID. So now that we've actually given the ability to like something, we want to show how many likes there currently are. So we'll look at that in the next part.